Ever get that feeling like you want to really understand something, like get right down into the nitty-gritty, especially when it's something that's part of your everyday life?
Hmm.
Like, think about restaurants.
Yeah, for sure. Whether you're kind of in the food and beverage world yourself, maybe looking for a little advantage, or even if you're just curious about what makes a great dining experience, like what makes it tick.
Well, today we're doing exactly that. We're opening up the playbook, so to speak.
That's it. We're going deep, a real deep dive into what it means to be a food and beverage manager. And get this, our source material today, it's pretty cool. We've got a bunch of interview questions, the kind they use to pick out the best candidates for this, well, pretty crucial role.
Yeah, you got to think about that for a second. These aren't just like random questions they throw out there, right?
Mm,
These are carefully chosen to really see what makes a great F&B manager, what skills they've got, how they think strategically. So whether you're someone who, I don't know, dreams of working in the industry, or you're just a regular at your favorite spot, or maybe you just love seeing how things work behind the scenes, get ready. We're going to break it all down. I think you're going to have some real aha moments.
I think so too.
By the end of this, you'll be seriously in the know. Let's jump in, shall we?
All right. Let's start with the operational and situational questions, yeah. One that always gets my attention is, what do you currently like in our restaurant and what would you change? It seems simple, but the answer can tell you a lot.
I see what you mean. It's not enough to just say, oh, the food's good, right? A really good answer. Well, it shows they're paying attention to the details. They get how everything works together to create that customer experience.
Yeah, are they noticing the service, how smooth it is, the design, the little things that create the atmosphere, even how the staff interacts with each other, with the customers?
Right, exactly. And when they talk about changes, are they thinking strategically? Like, do they spot any bottlenecks in the kitchen or, I don't know, suggest ways to make the reservation system better for the customer?
Spot on. It shows if they can walk into a place, a new environment, and just start analyzing it, looking for ways to make it better.
I like it. Okay, next up we have, well, it's a pretty basic question, but important. Are you familiar with health and safety regulations? And the follow-up is really key. How often do you inspect their implementation? I mean, in this business, that's not just a box to tick, right? That's everything.
Absolutely. It's the foundation of everything. You can have the most amazing menu, the coolest decor, but if you're not putting safety and hygiene first, well, nothing else really matters.
So true. This question really cuts to the chase. It's about commitment. A great F&B manager, they don't just know the rules, they make sure everyone's following them every day.
Yeah.
Checking, double checking, reinforcing. I don't know, what kind of examples would a really good candidate give here?
Well, they might talk about specific procedures they've put in place, maybe a new cleaning schedule, a special training program for handling food safely.
Oh, yeah.
They could also mention how they stay up to date on the regulations because they're always changing and how they communicate those changes to their team. It's about being proactive, really detail-oriented, and managing risk.
Makes sense.
Um,
Okay, moving on. We've got walk me through the process of designing a new menu. Now, this is where things get interesting. It's where, I don't know, the art and the science of the restaurant come together.
You got it. This isn't just about listing dishes you personally enjoy. It's about understanding cost, seasonality, what ingredients you can actually get, and of course, what your customers are going to want to order.
Oh, yeah. Big time. That's a whole puzzle in itself.
Right. And a really smart answer, it wouldn't just touch on those points, but also show they understand menu psychology.
Menu psychology.
Yeah, things like how the layout, the descriptions, even the prices, they all influence what people choose. And then there's the follow-up about special menus, vegan, gluten-free
I
options.
see
And
it.
it's all about inclusivity, making sure you're catering to everyone. A good F&B manager knows that's huge these days.
It's not just about the food on the plate. It's the whole experience and the business smarts behind it. Okay, next we have, what are the trademarks of high-quality food service? Now, this is a tricky one because it's a bit subjective, right?
Yeah, it is, but there are definitely some key things that stand out, wouldn't you say?
For sure. Like, obviously the food has to be good, but it's more than that. It's the whole package.
Totally. Is the service attentive but not, in your face?
Yeah.
Does the atmosphere, the ambience, does that add to the meal? Is the place clean, well-maintained? Even the way the food is presented, it all contributes to that sense of quality.
You're right. It's about going above and beyond consistently
Yeah.
across the board. And speaking of staying ahead of the game, there's that question about bringing innovations to make sure the restaurant stays on top. It's about being proactive, adaptable. This industry, it's constantly changing, right?
All the time. Trends come and go, new ingredients get popular, tastes change. A good F&B manager, they need to be aware of all that. They have to be willing to experiment, adapt to stay relevant.
It's not just about following every fad. It's about choosing innovations that make sense, that
Yeah.
fit the restaurant's brand, that the customers will actually like. What would a really, I don't know, what would a forward-thinking candidate say here?
Well, they might talk about their experience with new technology, things that streamline the ordering process, make things better for the customer, or how they stay informed about new culinary trends. Maybe they read industry magazines, go to conferences, even keep an eye on social media.
Yeah, social media, that's huge these days.
And they might even give examples of innovations they've introduced in the past, things that were successful.
Okay, let's talk money. There are a couple of questions about the financial side. How do you measure cost and revenue? And what cost-reducing methods have you found effective in the past? It's a reminder that this job, it's not just about food and drinks.
Oh, no, not at all. It's about business savvy.
Yeah.
You need a good F&B manager to keep the place afloat, make sure it's profitable.
They have to understand the numbers, find ways to save money without sacrificing quality. And when they talk about cost cutting, they need to have specific examples show the impact of their actions.
Exactly.
Which brings us to, how do you choose ingredients? How do you balance cost and quality?
That's a tough one, isn't it? You can't always just go for the cheapest option.
It's a balancing act for sure. This question tells you a lot about their sourcing practices. Do they have good relationships with suppliers?
Yeah.
Can they negotiate?
Oh, yeah, that's important. And it also shows their decision-making process. Can they find that sweet spot where they're getting top quality without breaking the bank? A really good answer might even mention ethical sourcing, supporting local farmers and how they incorporate those values into their buying decisions.
That's great. Okay, let's switch gears a bit and talk about the team. Walk me through the recruitment process you follow for a new team member, and how do you train your team? Because at the end of the day, it's the people that make the restaurant, right?
Absolutely. Building a strong team, one that's skilled and motivated, that's key for good service.
These questions, they're about strategy. How do they find the best people? How do they go beyond just the resume when evaluating candidates?
Yeah. And what's their approach to training? Making sure everyone's knowledgeable, efficient, and on the same page with the restaurant's values. What are some elements of a really good training program? What would they mention?
They might talk about, I don't know, having clear onboarding materials, giving new hires hands-on training with experienced staff,
Yeah.
regular skills assessments, maybe even opportunities for professional development. It's about creating a culture of learning and support.
That's the key.
Okay, last one in this section, it's about performance management. Do you use performance appraisal methods? If so, what methods have you found the most effective? This shows they understand that employees need to grow, they need feedback to improve.
And not just any feedback, right? Constructive feedback.
Exactly.
Regular performance appraisals, when they're done right, they can really help identify strengths, areas for improvement. They help people grow professionally, which leads to better performance overall. And the question specifically asks about effectiveness, which means they're aware that not all methods are created equal.
All right, so we've covered a lot of the, I guess you could say, the nuts and bolts of the F&B manager role.
The operational side, yeah.
Now let's get into the behavioral questions. These are interesting because they give you a glimpse into the person, how they handle different situations. The first one is, describe the menu or a specific dish or drink you designed that you're the most proud of. Sounds a bit more personal, right?
It is. It shows their passion, their creative process, how much attention they paid to detail. When someone talks about their work with pride, you can see their enthusiasm. And it gives you an idea of their culinary philosophy. What do they consider a successful dish?
What kind of things might they say to make their answer really stand out?
Well, they could describe what inspired them to create that dish, why they chose those specific ingredients.
Yeah, the thought process behind it.
Exactly. They might talk about testing and refining the recipe, maybe even share a story about a customer who loved it. It's about bringing that creation to life for the interviewer.
I love that. Okay, next we have you ever participated in the opening of a new restaurant? What was your role? I imagine that's quite an experience.
It's like a crash course in the restaurant world. You're setting up everything from scratch, hiring and training a whole team, usually under a lot of pressure.
Yeah, that sounds intense.
This question helps to see how they handle high-pressure situations, how they deal with ambiguity, And their specific role, that can show you how versatile they are, what their strengths are.
A real test of their abilities. Oh. Speaking of tests, here's one about dealing with the unexpected. Describe a situation where you had to deal with a restaurant emergency, like a power outage. This is where you see how well they think on their feet.
Exactly. Emergencies, they're bound to happen, right?
Yeah.
Power goes out, a small fire in the kitchen, a sudden rush of customers. This question is about seeing how they react under pressure. Do they stay calm
Can they think strategically, make quick decisions?
and take action to control the situation, make sure everyone's safe, both staff and customers? What would you say are some signs of a good answer?
They would probably describe the specific emergency, what steps they took to assess the situation, how they communicated with the team and the customers, and how it was resolved in the end. The key is to focus on their proactive approach, how they took control of a chaotic situation.
Right.
Next, we have a question about customer interaction. Recall a time a customer was dissatisfied with your service. How did you handle their complaints? This is a big one in any customer-facing industry. You got to be able to turn a negative into a positive.
Absolutely. Even the best restaurants get complaints sometimes. It's how you deal with them that matters. This question shows their communication skills, their empathy, how good they are at problem solving, and how dedicated they are to customer satisfaction.
So many important things wrapped up in one question.
Do they really listen to the customer? Do they take responsibility? What specific steps did they take to fix the problem and prevent it from happening again? A strong answer will show they can de-escalate a tense situation and find a solution that everyone's happy with.
That's the art of service recovery right there. All right, last but not least, we have a more sensitive question, but it's an important one. Have you ever fired someone from your team? Why did you have to do that, and how did you deal with it? This gets into the tough side of leadership.
It does. It's about making difficult decisions, having those uncomfortable conversations, but doing it professionally and with empathy.
You have to be fair, compassionate, and also follow the rules.
Exactly. It's not just about whether they've had to fire someone, it's the reasons behind it and how they handled the whole process. Were they clear and respectful when they explained the decision? Was everything done fairly and legally? This tells you a lot about their leadership style, how they understand team dynamics, and ethical considerations.
So, looking back at all these questions, wow, it really gives you a complete picture of what it takes to be a successful food and beverage manager. It's not an easy job, that's for sure.
Not at all. It needs operational expertise, financial know-how, amazing customer service, strong leadership, the ability to solve problems proactively, and a commitment to quality and safety. That's a lot to juggle.
It is. And for you, our listener, even if you're not planning on becoming an F&B manager, think about how these different aspects, things like efficiency, financial responsibility, customer focus, team building, they apply to so many different fields. Understanding what it takes to run a restaurant can give you a whole new perspective on, well, any business, really.
That's right. It gives you a peek behind the curtain, shows you the hard work and the diverse skills that go into creating those enjoyable experiences we often take for granted.
So, as you think about all this, here's something to chew on. Considering all the ins and outs of running a successful food and beverage place, what do you think is the biggest challenge for an F&B manager today? Is it dealing with rising costs, supply chain problems, keeping up with changing customer tastes and all the new dietary trends? Or maybe finding and keeping good staff in such a competitive job market? Think about it, and we'll see you next time for another deep dive.